Have you heard about adrenal fatigue and wondered if maybe that's why you're so tired all the time? Maybe you've talked to some people about it and they've said there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue. But yet you wonder if maybe that's why you can't get out of bed in the morning, but yet you can't go to sleep at night even though you're tired. I'm Dr. Penny Wilson, and in this video, we're going to talk about your adrenal glands, what they are, what they do, and how you might feel if they're not working quite right. And finally, some ways to get some testing done to figure out if maybe that's what's going on.
Your adrenals, what do? Honestly, they do a lot of regulation. They regulate other hormones, the production of them. They tell other glands when and how much to produce of other hormones. They help manage your electrolytes, which helps with things like blood pressure. They help with the inflammatory response, with that fight or flight response you've heard about. They help regulate your sleep and wake cycles, your blood sugar, and your body weight. Your adrenals are located on top of your kidneys. They're two very small, about the size of a sugar cube, pyramid-shaped sets of tissues. There's one on top of each kidney. Symptoms of adrenal dysfunction. You may have heard of adrenal fatigue, adrenal insufficiency. To me, it really comes down to adrenal dysfunction. They're not working properly for some reason. Well, if you think back to what they do, one of the main symptoms is fatigue. You can't get out of bed in the morning, you're just completely exhausted, but yet you're wired at night and you can't go to sleep, or you have a really hard time staying asleep at night. A lot of times people have afternoon sugar and salt cravings. Maybe they feel weaker than they should. Some people experience muscle pain. Anxiety and other mood disorders can come into play. Digestive issues also come into play. Our adrenals are involved in our digestive process. Inflammation is another big one that comes into play when we have adrenal dysfunction. And finally, weight gain. What do you do about adrenal dysfunction? A lot of times our adrenals aren't functioning properly because we are constantly exposing them to stress. It's not like the days where we were hunter-gatherers and we experienced stress on an occasional basis. Maybe we ran across a lion or a tiger and had to run. We don't really have those stresses anymore, although what we do have are stresses that happen throughout the day. Maybe somebody cuts you off in traffic. Maybe something happens with your spouse or a friend that causes you to feel stressed. Our culture is really thriving on this being stressed. It's more of a badge of honor. It's a competition. I'm more stressed than you are. I'm busier than you are. Well, all of that is taking a toll on our adrenals. Our adrenals were meant, one of the things, particularly with that fight or flight response, is they were meant to work and say, give us a poof of energy to outrun that tiger and then recover. And now it's like we're constantly pumping them. Say, we're stressed about this, we're stressed about that, all of those kind of things. So it's really dealing with the adrenal dysfunction. A lot of it is slowing down. It's reducing stress. It's managing stress and trying to be, not even trying to be, but working on being less stressed throughout the day. So that way we're only stressed when we really, really have to be, instead of this constant low level of stress. Improving your sleep. Are you sleeping well? And if not, what things can you do to improve your sleep? Some of the big things are shutting off screens at least an hour before bedtime. Not watching TV, not being on your computer, not being on your phone. Reading a physical book or reading on a device that has some sort of blue light filter. That blue light really messes with our brains. Also being sure your bedroom is comfortable. Potentially taking a hot bath before bed. Not working out too close to bed, because a lot of times that gets us wound up. You could also potentially do some meditation or some tapping, or it's also called EFT, emotional freedom technique, any of those kind of things to calm down. Maybe have a nice cup of hot tea and read for a few minutes before you go to bed, and making that a priority. Also, adjusting your foods and timing of when you eat what you eat. There's research that shows that carbohydrates, particularly starchy carbs, can change our cortisol levels. What we want are cortisol, which is one of the hormones produced by our adrenals. We want it to peak about an hour before we wake up. That's what naturally wakes you up. And then we want it to go down throughout the day and be lowest in the evening before bed. There's some research that shows if you have some starchy carbs a few hours before bed, that brings the cortisol down, which allows melatonin, which helps us relax and go to sleep, to rise. So putting those starchy carbs in the evening rather than at breakfast or at lunch, maybe a little bit at lunch, and then also really focusing on foods that reduce inflammation. Really, it's focusing on whole foods, your fruits, your vegetables, your leafy greens, good quality organic proteins, things without labels that give our bodies the deep nourishment that they need, the vitamins and the minerals that they need in order to be healthy. Then for some people, appropriate supplementation. There are specific supplementation protocols for adrenal dysfunction. Finally, if you think that you have adrenal dysfunction, I strongly recommend testing before particularly getting into some of the supplementation. The other things, slowing down, reducing and managing stress, improving your sleep, adjusting your foods and timing of those foods, all of those are great. But really, the supplementation, you need to know what's going on before you do that. As well as testing, if you think something is wrong, testing allows you to know, and then you can retest again later and see how you're progressing. There are different ways to test. Some people use saliva testing and other people use urinary testing. They both have their benefits and pros and cons. The point is to find a good medical professional who will do the testing for you, do the interpretation, and then help you find a treatment plan that works for you. So that's a bit about your adrenals. I'm Dr. Penny Wilson. If you'd like to talk to me, you can go to my website, drpennywilson.com, and set up an Ask Penny session. You can also go to my website and find out information about working with me.